Hey there, I'm St-Pierre. So last week there has been an interesting post on the Go subreddit, and it has been a long time since I've seen a popular post like that. So basically, it was a story told that a runtime error that occurs into a certain company. We don't have much detail. It's very vague, but basically, the gist of it is that there were something like a null, a null field on the database table, and the struct that was replicating that database was using, some kind of pointer, a pointer string. So since that time, I started to wonder. I mean, this is interesting because at the end of this post, the person that posted said something like, I really enjoyed Go and whatnot, but since that error, I'm kind of careful and then a bit prudent about recommending Go and whatnot. And this is interesting because that error is plaguing Java, .NET, JavaScript in so many ways. So I mean, prudence and discipline is required when using any kind of pointer. So and you might say, there's no pointer in JavaScript. Well, I mean, how many times someone just do xyz dot something, and the xyz is null. So this is a dereferencing a pointer at some point. So I was interesting to see what can be done to prevent that, mainly, and also what could have happened. Can we speculate a little bit more, because we were missing some kind of detail. So yes, I mean, let's start a Postgres instance. So I'm using Docker. If you don't really know Docker, well, no worries here. It's just a way to start a Postgres instance. So the -e parameter is for passing some kind of environment variable. We give a name to our container, and we can just exec the psql command inside that container to connect to our database. So that is our starting point, if you will. So from here, I mean, let's try to see what could have happened. I mean, if we were to use a string pointer in a simple application like that, so we do have a string pointer. So if they pass that around into some kind of formatting, could be an sprintf as well, could be anything. So I mean, this compiles, and this does not raise any panic or anything. Let's execute that actually. And yes, so this is the output. So I granted we have this %s and the NULL, but at least we don't have any panic in here. So so from here, I mean, what would be the next assumption? So what would they have done with a string pointer, for example, that could have raised a panic? So what about passing this sed parameter or this sed function around in functions like strings.toOpper, for example? Well, this does not even compile at all. So we are getting a compile error at this moment. So that is not our case. This is not possible that this sort of things could have happened. So at this stage, the compiler is it's making its job of detecting that. So that's not that as well. So I mean, let's create a table. Let's try to play around a little bit with that. So we will just execute that create table statement against our Postgres temporary database, if you will. And let's insert two rows in our database. So the interesting part, or I mean the important part in here, is that the second columns will allow null. So that is without much information, that is the basic assumption that we can drive from this story actually. So we are having a null columns in our database. So one field that will not allow null. So let's have our first row will be fine. We will have 2 string values into those 2 fields, and the second one, yeah, let's introduce this this famous null in in our database. So as simply as we can do a get. So let's imagine that we already have opened the database and whatnot. This video is not about how to open database and whatnot. We are just wanting to replicate a little bit what they had. So this is probably the simplest function that you can get. So we are basically just doing a query row, which if you don't know, this does not return any kind of multi-result. So this is, we have to only have one row. So this is what we are going to do, and we are passing some filters in there because I wanted to print both the rows that we had. So if you recall, we have one row with 2 values, one with 1 value and a null. So at this point, this function is going to return a pointer to our test structure, and an error if there's any error at all. So the first implementation we could think of trying to set our t variable in here as a pointer to our struct and just pass that to our scan. But as you can see, this compiles, but this panic. So this is not at all the issues that they were receiving, but I just wanted to demonstrate that, well, this scan function in here still wants something. I mean, it still wants a structure that has been initiated. So at this point, when we declare our t variable, we don't even have a structure defined. We just have a dedicated place in memory to put something there, but we don't have anything at that point. So the scan cannot even do its thing. But again, I mean, this shows that pointers are still quote unquote dangerous, if because the article was mentioning that it was the program that kept crashing was actually written by some people that were not really, I don't know, used to do Go. But I would argue that maybe they were not used to play with null reference at some point and null pointer. Maybe I don't know, but this is one thing. Another another implementation that we could do, because now we still need to have our scan work at some point. So what if we were to remove the pointer to our test structure and just declare a plain, a good old structure directly there, and we will pass some pointer to our scan. So this is most commonly used. So, but if you notice, we don't pass a pointer to the second parameter. It's already a pointer in our structure. So one could be, could fall into that trap as well, and saying to themselves, well, I already have a pointer on my structure. The call to is a pointer. I don't need to pass a pointer to the scan function. Well, no. This is not how it works as well. So what you are passing actually is the structure itself. So the t, even if the target field in the structure is a pointer, you still need to pass you still need to pass to pointer to this scan function. So let's try to fix that once and for all. So again, we don't have a pointer for our t variable, so it's of type the test structure that we created. We will pass to pointer to our scan function, and now we can just return the pointer to that struct, and yes, we have our desired functionality. So we don't see the code that we have in the main. We will see that in a couple of slides, but suffice to say for now that we do have both both our row are getting called by some our main function, and we just print the values that we receive. So for now, not really exciting, but we are seeing that, all right, okay, this is working. So it's probably a little bit similar to what they might add. Again, I don't know, but I'm trying to do that. So the famous NULL on the second print is what, this is our null value in our database. So the call to. So it's still very error prone, actually, because this is our main function, like I was saying. So basic stuff, we are opening a database and we are calling our get function with the two value that we inserted into the call one columns of the database. So this is this is intriguing. So what if we were to have a function attached to our structure? So the test structure could have a combine function, and now this could be where things get interesting and maybe similar. So again, I'm still trying to speculate what happened there, but this could be it. So remember, we have this test structure, and the second call to is a pointer string. So the combine function could have just directly tried to return a concatenation between a string, and now they might have dereference the call to, and sometimes they might not have noticed, because I think the language server is often doing that without it might not be them that did that. I don't know. It's still unclear, but maybe that's the case, or they did that themselves, and that was the error. I don't know, but this is an interesting error. So you obviously cannot dereference a pointer that do not have any value initiated into that famous pointer. So this line here, when we run that, so again it compiles. So boils down to were they having any kind of test or things like that could have picked, because the story was something like they were about to release something, and I don't recall exactly, but the gist of it was that they inserted some values in the database, but the application was not really ready to receive that, but the query to the database was still executed, and it was done at the beginning of the program, so it kept crashing over and over again for them. So again, this code is compiling, and now they are they are having some kind of panic during the execution of the program. So in their case, they did not even recompile their program as well. So this is typical, and I've seen that so many times in my time. Changing data on the database can be interesting. Let's just say it can be interesting sometimes, depending on how deep the program that are executing are handling all sort of situation. But I mean, yeah. We can have some very, very, very interesting behavior when changing some data as in production, and not having tested that exactly how the current code is going to react exactly to this type of thing. So this is might be something that happened. I don't know, but what would be a good way to think about that? Well, using pointer requires discipline. This is a fact, and And again, I mean, if you're going to use pointer at some point, you will need a bunch of code like that where you are checking. So in here, fixing our combine function, we are not just only checking for nil in the call to field of our test, but is the struct itself that we are passing to this function is nil as well. So this could happen, and this is this is mostly the error I was referring to in JavaScript. This is very, very typical when you have something and you do dot. So you think you have a string, you think you have something, but it's an undefined or null or whatever, and you do a dot function name whatever, and boom. I mean, this is crashing. But in Go, I mean, this is sometimes panicking the process, and now the application is restarted, basically probably by a daemon or something that is checking that this program is running. But the point is, in their case, they had that in the initialization, or maybe it was in the main. But the point is, the app kept crashing again and again. So if you are planning to have any kind of pointer, then this is obligatory. You need to be ready to write that kind of code. And I know that a lot of people don't like, if error is not equal to nil, but I mean, pointer requires that kind of code block all over the place. Otherwise, you never know when something will be thrown at you that will be nil. It could be like I said, the structure itself, which would be bad, because if the structure is nil and we are not checking that that t is nil, and we call the call to directly on the nil, this is exactly the same as they're referencing this pointer. So it's the same. So yes. So is it that? I don't know, but this is something that you will need to do if you want to fix that. The good news, I mean, is that this problem is solved already. I mean, this is a solved problem. The SQL package has a null x, y, and z. So in our case, we can do a null string in here, and by default, this is going to do what you want. So we don't even need to change our get function at all, our scan and whatnot. This is all handled by the SQL package. But now we do have one interesting property, which is a valid. Well, is it a property? Is it a field? Call it what you want. It's let's just leave it at we have this valid, and now we can we can just say, well, if our structure is nil, or we don't have any valid value in there, so meaning that it's probably nil, then we can at least trap that ourselves. So is it that different than the previous slide? Well, not at all, but at least it seems to be forcing people to react, because now you cannot just call the call to field. You either need to call the valid, well, either you need to check the validity or at least the string. But if you call the string on the nil, it will be an empty string, and you will not get a panic for that. So could they have used that? Well, probably, because they were mentioning that the error came from a database. Now, I know that they did not really recompile before before adding the new row in the database and starting to have those error. But again, we are returning to the fact that if your database is going to accept null values, then you are obligatory needing to either one and handle that with a pointer, but better yet with the SQL package, or two, making sure that if you don't allow pointer on your struct, then all your SQL queries will need to make sure that there is a value. So there will be lots of checking for null directly in the query, and if it's null, then having a default value directly there. So that is also very valid, especially in Go, since in Go we do have default value for all the basic types. So I've done that. I mean, this is still interesting. Is the query getting a little bit verbose? Then, well, yes, probably, because now you don't really have the option of doing a select star, but you still need to do some kind of and I don't know how to say that word in English, but the coalesce. I don't know, the if null way of doing that. But we are diverging. I mean, this is the way to handle that. The SQL package, which is the standard library, is already helping us to do that. So I mean, there's no reason to not use it, I think. So what about the pointer outside of the database? Yes. So again, I mean, this is tricky. So I would think about those things before using any kind of pointer, I guess. Do you really need a pointer? And this is a valid question. This is interesting because excuse me, in Go, I mean, sometimes you often hear things like, oh, well, when I started Go, I used the channel everywhere and Go routine and whatnot. So it's not because it's very, very easy to use a pointer in Go that you still need to use them. I mean, you still need to think about, why is the reason for using a pointer, and this is a common question, which I would say, unfortunately, well, personally, I don't even have a good answer for that. There is valid reason. So for our case, in our get function, could we just not have a pointer there? Well, yes, of course, but the problem was more the pointer in the struct itself. So what if we are not on the context of a database? I think that is why we do have default values in Go. I think well, I don't know. I'm just deblattering in here. But maybe this is why we do have default value, because I would still prefer to use the error value to make sure that something is there or not. So if you have a function that is going to return something, a struct, for example, and you want that to be a pointer, because if there's nothing to return, you will return nil. I don't know. To me, I would still maybe I would still consider to use a full structure and an error in that case, and just return something like, there's no data here. That is the error. So we are already used to trap error. Our errors are values in Go, and this is this could work. But again, I mean, pointer do have their use and things like that, and you will need to use them. Make sure that your team is disciplined, and that if you're going to do any kind of code review on less experienced developers, then I mean, make sure that you port a special attention to pointer and whatnot, because at the end of the day, they are still, I don't know. I don't have any percentage. I don't have any good data to back me on that. It's just my experience. But I would dare say that they account for more than or around 70% of backend error even these days. So that is why when you're using languages like that have result, for example, Elm or Rust, maybe, that you still need to handle those two cases, but this is why I think maybe using the error could be a better way, and just handling that. It's sort of, not really, but I mean, it's kind of similar to having a result, because now you either have a structure that will be filled, or you will have an error. And granted with an empty structure. So is it going to be more memory consumption? Yeah, probably. Of course, yeah, I get that. But I mean, yeah, this is some questions that you will need to ask before just using a pointer just because you can. All right. See you next time.